In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we help you understand why becoming a cyber advisor can help grow your business and your profits. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the cyber advisor role and what it is and how it can help you, how it can help your MSP, how it can help your profits, and how it can help you generate more business. And we welcome to the show today an amazing client of ours at the MSP Growth Hub, Neil Smith from Reform IT. Good morning, Neil. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Ian. All well here. Thank you.
Great stuff. Just back from holiday, nice and refreshed, raring to go straight into the podcast lounge. What a better place. What a better place to be. So today we are talking about cybersecurity, but more importantly, around the role of the cyber advisor in relation to cyber essentials and how this can become such a benefit for you as an MSP. As you know, we talk and work with lots of MSPs, and having the right security stack is obviously important for yourselves and it's important for your clients, but there's so many opportunities, and today's opportunity around this cyber advisor role has really helped you and your business, Neil. And we're going to learn all the little things, the tips and the tricks and the strategies that Neil's done to help them do that. But before we do that, Neil, just can you explain to the wonderful listeners here, who are you, what do you do, and who do you help?
So my name is Neil Smith, Managing Director of Reform IT. We are a Cheltenham-based managed service provider, team of about 23. We help all small, medium-sized businesses with all of their IT issues, as most MSPs do. But we've recently added the Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus certification body with IASME to our stack of services too, which I think this neatly fits into.
Lovely, great stuff. So we had quite a few conversations as the community did at the Growth Hub over the last couple of months about protecting yourselves against the bad guys. And what was throughout all the conversations we had, which went from insurance to product to shiny ball to product to shiny ball to product to another shiny ball to another security tool. And it boiled down to the fact of absolutely 101, every MSP should have Cyber Essentials Plus. And if you've got Cyber Essentials Plus as your first stage to securing yourself, then you're taken by the world as being a bit serious. And then what happened was that we then had some panel discussions, and we got yourself and some other clients. Michael Freeman was one of very experienced and in-depth and take this super, super seriously, which is why we said, Neil, we need to bottle that, put it in the podcast, and away we go. So let's start off at the top. We've got a show structure, which obviously we completely ignore, and then I just go off on a tangent and we talk about something else. What, in your opinion, Neil, why is Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, why is it so important that every single MSP who's listening to this podcast, no matter what size they are, has it? What's it all about?
It's credibility, and it's achievable credibility. So it's, I think, as MSPs, and certainly we at Reform IT, we try and hold all of our clients to the Cyber Essentials standard. Whether they decide to go down the certification route or not, that has to be the minimum standard that you look to hold your clients to, because it provides and covers, as its name suggests, Cyber Essentials. It covers all the essentials of cybersecurity. And the fact is, the statistics speak for themselves, that if you are covering all of those essentials, all of those basics of cybersecurity, you are probably in the top 10 or 15% best protected organizations in the UK. And it's the ones that aren't doing those basics that are getting attacked. Right. And I think what happened is that in 2022, the government started to do a consultation. This is where our sort of journey started on all of this. Yeah. In that they started to look at whether managed service providers, we managed MSPs, should be regulated. And it's crazy that we're not. We all look after usually regulated clients. So we have the keys to the castles of solicitors, of financial advisors, probably of some look after health companies, all sort of companies that hold very sensitive data that are regulated as a result. But we as the IT support company who have the keys to that castle are not regulated. And that's bonkers, really, when you think about it. So the government did this consultation about how they would look to expand what they call the NIS, Network Information Systems Regulation of 2018. It's a very dry document when you read it, but currently, I wouldn't even recommend it as bedtime reading, but it currently only covers the largest MSPs in the country, 10 million turnover plus. You've got to be supporting major national infrastructure. I think there's a number of employees, 50 plus employees. It's the big
It's a
guys
big one.
that are currently only encompassed by this regulation. And in 2022, the government did this kind of consultation where they said, actually, should we include all MSPs in this regulation and have them meet whatever standards we expect? And of course, the answer is yes. It's absolutely sensible. Now, that's where it ended. Various political chaos, because in order for this to progress, I think the ICO is going to be the regulator when it does come through. And of course, the ICO need money to do this. That has to go through Parliament. At the end of 2022, good old Liz and Kwasi came in and made a bit of chaos.
Fun for 10 minutes.
And since then, politically, it's all been a mess anyway. So it's got stale. Although the government have released a further document in February of this year where they've done a bit of market analysis on, because one of the problems was legally defining what an MSP is, so that they can say you are an MSP, therefore you need to be regulated or you're not. And I think we all know what an MSP is. Clearly, it's got to be legally defined. And I think they've done another document, or they have done another document, which I posted in the Teams channel, which has done some market research on sizes of MSPs, the actual size of the market. It's really quite an interesting, for once, and a government document. It actually makes some very interesting reading. So this is, I think, clearly progress towards what is the inevitable thing. So regulation costs money. And it costs us MSPs. If we're going to be regulated, that means we're going to have to tick boxes. I suspect that it would seem to make sense that MSPs having Cyber Essentials, I would say at least Cyber Essentials Basic, but I would suspect it'll be Cyber Essentials Plus will be the minimum kind of level. And of course, this all takes time. It all costs money. And at the minute, potentially, apart from the fact that you get to shout about it and put it in your marketing, and of course it does give you credibility, and I would argue that most MSPs have probably come across at least one client that has said to them, how do we know that your systems are secure? And how do we know that you looking after us is a good thing, that you are doing and looking after your own house, as well as you say that you're looking after us? You demonstrate that. And of course, Cyber Essentials or ISOs, 27001, 9001, whatever they might be, they're all good ways of helping demonstrate your credibility. But I suppose, what if there's a way of really getting some really good credibility and also potentially making some money out of it as well from a sale?
Now it's got exciting.
And this is where the cyber advisor scheme comes into play. If we're all going to get regulated, and I think it's inevitable, it still might take months or years, but as good, honest MSPs that are part of a great community here, let's get ahead of it. Let's be the best, because that's what the MSP Growth Hub is all about. Let's get ahead of the game. Let's get that accreditation. Let's get Cyber Essentials Plus. Now, if you've got Cyber Essentials Plus, then you're already halfway to becoming a cyber advisor. Beyond that, you then need to get, and there are 2 or 3 different ways of doing it. An ISO route is one of them. ISO 27001 can be quite an expensive thing to do. And for the cyber advisor scheme, you have to go down there are a couple of different versions of ISO, if I remember rightly. There's a kind of a bit of a cheap and cheerful one, and then there's the proper one. And I forget the exact terminology of which is the proper one, but you have to have the proper one, which I don't think you get a lot of change out of 10 grand for.
No, I think that's around the number, isn't it?
So we've gone down the IASME route. And it's about getting something called IASME Cyber Assurance, which is roughly equivalent to ISO 27001. And in fact, on the IASME website, there is a grid, a comparison that links the two together and shows you if there are, or what differences there are. And there aren't that many. And that IASME Cyber Assurance is a lot less expensive to obtain than ISO 27001, but it ticks the next box that you need for cyber assurance. For the cyber advisor scheme. So once you've got your cyber assurance scheme or cyber assurance qualification, which effectively covers the business, you then need an individual to go and pass the cyber advisor exam. Right. Now, if you have ever done a Cyber Essentials questionnaire, taken one of your clients through Cyber Essentials, that effectively is what the exam is all about.
Wow.
They are looking for two things. They're looking three things. They're looking for knowledge of Cyber Essentials. So you've got to know the Cyber
Right.
Essentials scheme inside and out, all of the kind of the pillars of it and the questions that are asked. You've got to be able to explain to a pretend client how they might meet the requirements of the Cyber Essentials scheme in words that a non-technical person can understand. And finally, they're looking for somebody to be able to do all that in a professional manner. Now, my view is that's what we MSPs do all day long.
Yeah.
This is something that you've got to be able to do that to be an MSP. Being able to go out to clients, create that credibility in a conversation, in a sales conversation, whatever it might be, and be able to explain what it is you do to protect them in words that they understand. That's what we do all day, every day. We wouldn't be able to sell our services if we couldn't do that.
Exactly.
So IASME and the NCSC, so this is an NCSC driven scheme. They're partnering with IASME to deliver the training and the credibility. And obviously it's all to do with Cyber Essentials, which is the IASME scheme anyway. I could be wrong, but I think they've been fishing in slightly the wrong pond in terms of finding cyber advisors. I think they've been going down the route of talking to their cybersecurity experts who are not MSPs and who, God bless them, I think they probably go down they're not the best at explaining things, technical things, in a non-technical way.
Get it.
And that has been, as we understand, the chief reason for people failing the cyber advisor exam.
Isn't that interesting?
They've gone down the route about talking about VLANs and port forwarding and firewalls and things that are just going to blow the average client's mind and not make any sense to them, rather than being able to take those quite technical concepts and explain them in ways that somebody non-technical can understand, which, as I say, is what we are brilliant at doing, or should be brilliant at doing. So if you pass the exam, and once you've done that, you have to sign some paperwork to say you'll meet a code of ethics. Being a cyber advisor, you do have to take your sales hat off initially. So although you work for an MSP and you can declare that you work for an MSP, when you go in to do the cyber advice bit, and it's all about, so just be clear about what the cyber advisor role is. This is what IASME and the NCSC have found this gap. They found a whole bunch of customers or potential customers that need Cyber Essentials, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what they need. They don't know what they've got to do to achieve the Cyber Essentials standard. And it's either because they haven't got formal IT support, or their existing IT support equally doesn't know or doesn't want to help, or they're just all at sea. They don't know what they're doing. So the idea of the cyber advisor role is you go in and you do that gap analysis, and you charge for your time as well. And obviously, inevitably, in theory, you're going to find some gaps, but you have to come at it with a non-sales hat on and say, look, okay, your systems are out of date, but you could just patch them yourself, and that will tick the box.
Yeah.
But once that report's been done and the client's accepted it, there is nothing to stop you going in and saying, actually, obviously, we work for an MSP, or I work with an MSP. We can help you with some of this if you wish. If you want to automate your patching, monitor your security, all the rest of it, and then obviously we can help you through Cyber Essentials as well. And that's the kind of the lead in to further work and sales. So you charge for your time doing the cyber advisor report, and then potentially there is further work beyond that. So this is where you make your money. Now, on top of that, once you've become a cyber advisor, you also get a lovely NCSC logo that says you're a cyber advisor for Cyber Essentials that you can put across your website, your emails, and all the rest of it.
Fantastic.
And I think whilst I would completely forgive people perhaps for not knowing necessarily what Cyber Essentials was, certainly not necessarily knowing what IASME Cyber Assurance was, I think most people know who the NCSC are because of the high profile they have. Whenever there's a cyber attack in the UK, it's always the NCSC that get involved, and they're all over the news and all the rest of it. So I would say certainly most people will know who the NCSC are. And if you can put a logo on your website that says you are NCSC certified approved as a cyber advisor, I think that brings a huge amount of credibility too.
This is just such a great opportunity, because isn't it amazing that someone in a technical area, a technical space in the cybersecurity world have identified that there's this disconnect between techies And I'm going to say real people, but I kind of people who listen to this podcast will know what I'm talking about, because that's the ethics of educating your prospects and people into why they need technology, why they need what you do, why they need to keep safe and how to keep safe. And if this role here that they've created gives the opportunity to stand out from the crowd, because just while you were talking there, you've got two opportunities here. Either you sit here and you wait for regulation to come along and you go, oh my God, what a nightmare. Why have I got to do all this? Or you're proactive about it. And someone said to me once, he said, look at what's going on to you, or you could look at what's going on around you and understand what's going on around you and go, how many is that in that space? Now, Neil, how many MSPs do we think there are in the UK, roughly?
Do you know, I read that document that I mentioned earlier.
We didn't answer it because I only read the one number. It's around 11,000, something like that.
Yeah,
They were saying.
11,000, that's it, yeah.
And I'm going to say that there is probably, I'm going to put a good old bet on the fact there's probably about another 4,000 IT support companies who don't even know what an MSP is and don't even know what a managed service is, right? So I reckon we're looking at 15,000 businesses here. Currently, Neil, at the time of recording, which is August 2024, how many cyber advisors are there under this scheme?
82.
82.
There are 82 organisations, including Reform IT, that are currently now listed on the NCSC website as a cyber advisor for Cyber Essentials.
Wow. So what an opportunity. The opportunity here to go and get yourselves accredited and get yourself. So is it the business then that gets the accreditation, or is it one person within it? How does that kind of work?
Both. So the business gets the accreditation, Cyber Essentials, and then as I say, that there are 3 different routes you can go down. One route I've never heard of before and I can't think of it, but it's on the NCSC website, but I've never ever come across it before, so it's a bit of a weird one. You can go down the ISO route, so ISO 27001, but as I say, it's got to be the proper expensive one, not the cheaper one. Or you can go down the IASME Cyber Assurance route, which is the route that we took. We went down the IASME route, and IASME Cyber Assurance also covers the organisation. So the organisation, so this is where I'm coming back to the NIS regulation. I am as certain as I probably can be that having Cyber Essentials and IASME's Cyber Assurance that covers the organisation, we're going to be more than ticking the boxes of any potential regulation. So that's done. And in terms of costs for all of this, I'll come back to that in a second. So we've got Cyber Essentials, we've got IASME Cyber Assurance, and then you have to have an individual within the organisation who is the cyber advisor.
Okay.
Now, anybody in the company, once you've got that, anybody in the company can go and do the cyber advisor stuff. It's just that individual has to rubber stamp it and check it to make sure that it meets the requirements of the cyber advisor scheme. But so you've got to have those two things. The company's got to be certified, and you have got to have an individual who's passed the cyber advisor cyber advisor exam, which they run the exams in Cheltenham, Manchester, I think Birmingham and London. So there's where you can go and do it. The exam takes about 3 hours, as I remember. You've got 2 hours is the written bit, and then there's a kind of an hour which is an interview to check that you come across professionally. Or so it's a thorough exam, and it's time is the hardest part of it. If I'm honest with you, you kind of run out of time quite quickly, particularly in the written part. If you waffle like I do, anyway. But it's, as I say, if you've done Cyber Essentials assessments and you know the Cyber Essentials scheme well, and you're an MSP, because this is what we do. It's not difficult. It really isn't. There are some example, again, on I think it's the Cyber Scheme website who do the exam. They've got some example, like an example question, an example scenario that you might be presented with in the exam, so you can practice.
Brilliant. So obviously this instantly rates your credibility, but you're still maybe a little bit of a secret to everyone in your area, in Cheltenham, that you've got this accreditation, which we know, everybody's listening to this is going, great, that's a really great thing to do. How do you then, what's the best kind of practice that you've come across, that you then open up your office doors and then you're out educating people? What's the best way to then turn this into an opportunity? Because this sounds like a classic land and expand. We're going to come and talk to you today about your cybersecurity. We're going to give you an audit. We're not talking about managed services. We're not going to sell you Office 365. We're not going to do any of that stuff. This is just a value add service that you can charge for. I guess you could probably decide not to charge for it if you didn't want to, could you?
You could, yeah. So neither the IASME or NCSC set any rules around what you charge for doing the cyber advisor gap analysis. So you could treat it as a loss leader if you wanted to. I think you've got to value your time, because it's probably at least half a day's work.
Right.
So,
okay. That was going to be my next question. What's the size of the time on this? Well, half a day.
I think whether effectively to do the gap analysis as a cyber advisor, you are effectively taking that client through Cyber Essentials Basic.
Right.
You're going to be using the Cyber Essentials standard to do the gap analysis on each of the pillars and answering each of the questions. Yeah. So actually, it's going to take you as long. And you do then have to write a report. And IASME are asking us to feedback the reports and the customers that we've done. There's likelihood as time progresses, they will probably come and check our homework to make sure that we're doing it correctly, and they're looking for feedback from the clients that have had the cyber advisor experience to make sure it's working. The NCSE will be requiring that as well. So yeah, I think it's quite a lot of time to give away. There are no rules around it. You can do what you like.
That's a fair point. You could always discount it or reduce it if they start with you or whatever. But what's the best way, do you think, then, to go out and to start educating businesses that you may never even know about, how you've contacted people? How do we then start to generate leads through this method?
This is the journey we're now on. And yeah, it is about shouting about it on social media, through all of your normal marketing channels, whether you've got email newsletters, putting it on the website. Brilliant. And I know the other aspect of it is that both IASME and the NCSC are also going to be starting to shout about it too. So they're going to be taking a bit of the marketing load off us and helping us promote, and obviously all of the other cyber advisors, the services, what it offers and what you can gain from it as a normal client. Help us promote it. Why wouldn't you want to be on that bandwagon?
Yeah, particularly in the early days where you've got the numbers, and then as the years and years come on, it's then going to be, we've been doing this for years, and that's just going to bolt that credibility straight in. Is there any particular size of business that this suits best in terms of an end client? Does it work for, if you've got someone under 10 users, is this going to be a bit of a heavy hand for them, or is it for larger corporate sort of 50, 60, 100, 200 user customers? Where do you see this fitting in your
As with Cyber Essentials, it's size agnostic. And I think what the great thing about the cyber advisor role is, in terms of MSP size, it's agnostic as well. I think the biggest cost of it is time. So in terms of the cost of getting IASME Cyber Assurance and Cyber Essentials Plus and doing the exam, it's roughly $5,000. So $5,000 invested into your MSP, and then it's the time. You've obviously got to have the time to, particularly cyber assurance, IASME Cyber Assurance. Just as with ISO, there's a lot of writing, box ticking, policies to create, all of that sort of thing. But there's help out there to do that as well. We were lucky that Nathan, who's our internal cyber security chap, did all of that. And with management involvement, but I was able to effectively delegate that. But if you've got the time, then you can be a one-man band and become a cyber advisor. This is the other great part about it. $5,000 it's a chunk of money. Don't get me wrong, but it's not an unachievable chunk of money, I don't think, for most MSPs.
And I think we've covered what we were going to discuss today. I think this is a great opportunity. If you want to stand out from the crowd, if you want to be seen to be taking security in your MSP and in your client's security, your client's businesses as well, seriously, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, and getting ahead of that regulation. We're just ticking boxes and making money from it.
It's going to happen. It just depends how we prepare for that. And I think you're absolutely, from what I'm hearing from people in the area and how it works, I think this is exactly like how you can see the little jigsaw pieces of the cyber world lining up to try and help protect people as much as they can. It makes perfect sense. Neil, thank you for sharing all the information and everything that you've done today. You're an amazing sharer in our community and with the channel, and we are terribly grateful for you for that. If people want to have a chat with you about this, how do they get in contact with you? If you want them to get in contact with you, that is.
Absolutely. Feel free. neil@reformit.co.uk.
We'll pop his email address on the show notes, and we'll share with you all the details there. Unless we have anything else, that was an amazing show. Thank you very much, Neil. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ian.
And look forward to all the cyber advisors popping up over the world as a result of this podcast. Lovely stuff. Super. Thanks again. Catch up with you on the next one. Take care now. Hang on a minute, just before you go. And if you're curious about how this episode links with the ability to scale your MSP to $1 million, or if you're already there, accelerate to 5, then we want to invite you to come and take the MSP Mastery Quiz. And in just 3 minutes, you're going to get a 360-degree scan of your business where you can identify the 1 or 2 tactics that can help you find more time, engage and align your people, and help generate more leads in your MSP. It's really simple. Just click on the link in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love to get some feedback from you by means of a rating, review on Spotify or iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate every single one of them. Now you can go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to catching up and connecting with you soon. All the best now.